All right, welcome to Peace of Mind Radio. I am Brian Ramsey along with Chris Vaughn. And today, this is going to be a different subject matter because we're talking about one of those interesting questions that I've had, and we talked about this before the podcast. I've really had, let's say, over the last 6 months of last year, and especially starting this year, and that is, should I be contributing to my 401k? Yep. Now, here's what you're going to hear in almost every case is people say contributing to your 401k is the best decision you can make. And I think we're going to make an argument today that may not always be in the best interest, right? So we're going to talk about that. We're going to tackle, first of all, the reasons that you should contribute, and I'll let you tackle that one.
All right.
Okay. And then I'm going to take the other side, and I'm going to talk about reasons why you might consider not contributing. Now, hey, I know it's going to sound a little unorthodox for us to say that, but sometimes that can be the right advice. Yeah. And then we're going to tackle Roth 401k. So I think almost everybody now has the ability to contribute.
See it with most people now.
Yeah. I mean, most plans, 5 years ago we didn't even have this, or it seems like it. But it seems like more and more companies now are adding in the ability for folks to contribute to the Roth, which is an after-tax contribution. So we're going to tackle all that. It should be a pretty cool series because this has all come up in the past, like I said, 6 to 7 months. And a lot of it's having to do with just the change of administration and the change of potential taxes and, the tax impact. And we'll give you a couple of examples along the way of why you might not continue contributing to your 401k. So with that being said, that's a quick intro. Chris, why don't you take what are the reasons that you say, yes, you should be contributing to your 401k?
To your 401k. All right. So the most obvious reason why you would want to contribute to your 401k is it's free money. In most cases, there is a match.
But it's your money.
It's right. It's your money. It is a form of your compensation. So it's not free money, if you will, but
your match would be, right?
Your match is a form of compensation that you're getting, and you're not getting it unless you're actually contributing to that 401k. So there's two different numbers that you have to know. If you want to figure out how this works, your company will say, okay, we're going to match 50% or 100% or something along those lines of whatever you contribute to your 401k up to a certain total percentage of your total salary. So, for example, they might contribute 100% of whatever you put in. They'll match that up to, say, 3% of your salary. Excuse me. And then they might have a second part where they say, and we'll put in 50% of what you contribute over that 3% up to, say, 4 or 5. But the main thing here is that not only is the money that you are personally putting into that 401k being saved and growing based on your investments, but that match rate that is being given to you by your company. That is by far the biggest reason why you should contribute to a 401k.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna take the other side of that.
All right.
Now, there's many more, right? I mean, we're only talking about a few, but we literally could spend the better part of an entire podcast just talking about the reasons that you should contribute to your 401k. Now, I'm gonna play the other side of that, and that is that there's a discussion that goes on about paying tax now versus paying tax later, right? And my old partner, and I won't mention his name because you guys will start giggling if we start talking about it.
Too late, already done it.
I know. But he would always say, would you rather pay tax on the seed that's in the ground or the harvest at the end? And I thought it was kind of silly when he first started, we'd say that. I'm like, what are you talking about? But the more you think about that. If you're paying tax on $10, for example, right? And you're putting $10, let's say $100. You're putting $100 away in your 401k. And would you rather pay tax on $100 or you defer the $100, right? And 20 years down the road, now that $100 is $300, would you rather pay tax on the $300, right? So there's that argument. But I'm going to give you a little bit different spin. I get that part. I understand what he's talking about. But what we're seeing now is, well, let me say this. My parents, for example, my mother and father are in their, well, let's say late 70s, right?
Okay.
Not to kind of give away my age too, but that's okay. No, they're in their late 70s. So they didn't start out their careers with 401ks that were even available, right? I can remember my mother was not nearing retirement, but, it's at a pretty good ways into her career before she ever was eligible for a 401k, right? So they didn't have their entire career to put money into a 401k. Now we're seeing the minute you get out of school and you take your first job, the first thing that you go into your day one of your job, they're talking to you about putting money in a 401k. In fact, some of the 401k plans that we work on, there is a provision that says that you have to opt out of your 401k. Yep. Otherwise, you're automatically in, and they defer X amount of dollars. So with that being said, we're now seeing folks that are, let's say, in their approaching 50, right? And we have a number of those clients, that their 401k balances are approaching $1 million just because of what they've deferred plus the match you were talking about. And so when you think about that, they've got another, let's say, 15 years of working and deferring and having the company match. That 401k could be a significant balance. It becomes an issue when you reach the age 72, as of today, because you're going to be forced to take money out. So we ran the numbers on a client who had about $900,000. He was 52, I think. By the time he was 65, he's projected to have like $2.5 million in there, the way he's deferring and the growth and everything else. His RMD, which is the minimum that you're required to take out, when you're 72 years old, was $380-some thousand. Well, he didn't need $380,000 a year to live on. And so we had the conversation with him. He's 52, like I said, and we had the conversation of let's not contribute any more than a certain minimum in your pre-tax side of your 401k. Let's talk about doing contributions to the post-tax side, which is what we're going to get into. But again, he was blown away that, in fact, I was telling him, let's start to minimize what you're putting in on the pre-tax side just because of the sheer, balance he's going to have when he's 65, 70 years old, when he starts taking distribution. So with that being said, that's kind of argument against it. It's okay to look at what you're doing right now and saying, what's the impact to me? What's the tax impact to me today? But you also have to look 10, 15, 20 years down the road and say, now what's the tax impact to me? That's the seed versus the harvest. You have to look at all that.
If I can add something to that, another guy that we work with comes up with some pretty goofy analogies from time to time, but he did come up with a pretty good one. And you know who I'm talking about. That's why you're laughing.
Yeah.
He came up with a pretty good one.
He might be able to hear us right now.
He might probably can. One of the neat things about a 401k from the point of view of the IRS, they love it when you keep your money invested in a traditional 401k and your money's growing at 6, 7, 8, 9%, whatever it is that you're getting, because that means that the tax that you owe them in the future is also growing at 6, 7, 8, 9%, whatever it is you're getting. So they love that. It's actually it's a different way of thinking about that tax burden that's coming down the road.
Yeah, but I will say this, that this is not something you take lightly, okay? Don't misunderstand what we're saying. We're not saying everybody run out and change your deferment to zero pre-tax, and we're not saying that. But what we're saying is that, there is an argument to continue to contribute on a pre-tax. There's also an argument, and a legitimate argument, to say that your contributions should maybe either be post-tax or, not deferring money into your 401k plan or minimize the contribution. Now, with that being said, the only way we feel like that you would know that and that you have to get the information in order to determine what is right for you is to do a financial plan. Now, you've heard us say, if you've listened to us at all, let's say over the last 3 years for sure, we harp on this whole financial planning thing because we really do feel like that the only way for anybody listening, and that goes for us too, right? I did this for myself, but the only way for any of us to make good, solid financial decisions is to do a financial plan so that you have the data that you need in order to make a right decision. The only way I gave that recommendation for my client to say, hey, let's start to minimize your pre-tax deferment, The only reason why I even mentioned it is because we had the data. We did a financial plan. We had the data available to show him the impact of him deferring on the Roth as opposed to the pre-tax side. So the only reason, again, you have to have the information in order to make good decisions. Now, this is not something you just blanket say, hey, we're going to, everybody should do that. That's not the case. But
no, there's no one right answer for everybody. That doesn't exist.
That's right. That's right. So with that being said, let's move to Roth IRAs, which is, if you've been listening, when we talk about post-tax versus pre-tax, that's what we're talking about is, well, why don't you tackle the pre-tax versus post-tax? What is the difference?
Okay, so all right, Roth 401ks specifically,
Sorry,
not IRAs, but that's okay. The concept is still the same. When you are dealing with a traditional 401k, your money is going into that account, and then what's remaining of your paycheck gets taxed. So the money's never been taxed. Now it grows based upon your investments, and the tax is deferred. So it grows a lot faster because you're not having to take those taxes out as you go. Now, at the end, when you go to use this money during your retirement years, now you pay taxes on the money as you take it out. Everything you take out, you pay taxes on it, and you report it as income tax, so whatever bracket you're in at that point in time down the road. The Roth version works a little bit differently. It is your taxes are taken out of your paycheck, and then the contribution comes out and goes into your 401k. Still grows tax deferred, just like the traditional one did. But because the tax was paid up front, now when you get to retirement age and you're pulling that money out, there's no taxes at all, as long as you follow the rules, on the Roth money when you take it out. So your RMDs that's not part of it. You don't have to worry about that 72 age figure. It affects your taxes on your Social Security, on a lot of other things. So the big difference between the two, the analogy that I like to use with people to figure out the difference between the two, and this is very simplified, is imagine two snowballs sitting at the top of the hill that are exactly the same size. One of them's traditional, one of them's Roth, and for argument's sake, let's just say a 20% tax rate. So you go to the Roth snowball and you remove 20% of the snowball, roll them down the hill. They come to the stop at the same point, and then you take 20% off of the traditional one. And the question then is, which snowball is bigger after it has gone down that hill? And the answer is, depends on how long the hill is. So that's where a combination of the two might be very wise based upon the time frames that you're working with.
Yeah, and I'll tell you that it's super easy that if you do a good financial plan and you work with a good financial planner and they do a good cash flow analysis, you can say, what happens if I continue to contribute on a pre-tax basis, right? So in a traditional 401k. And then what happens if I change my deferment, which is exactly what we did with this client, and we started contributing on a post-tax basis, and we essentially just said, let's look at the difference in the two. So we ran one plan was pre-tax, the other plan was on post-tax, and we compared the two together and let them look at it. And it was a significant difference.
Yeah, it does. Makes a big difference.
It was a big difference because in this case, which is, I give this maybe a squirrel moment, which somebody else that we know has squirrel moments
has
a lot.
Those moments, yeah.
But this particular person was a very high income earner, okay? So they were ineligible to make a direct contribution to a Roth. And he kept saying, I'd like to contribute to a Roth. I can't. I'm like, well, here we go. So now we're going to make post-tax contributions to the Roth portion of his 401k. And by the way, I told him you can defer as much as the 401k limit will allow you into a Roth 401k, which then when he retires would just be a Roth IRA. So anyway, it kind of killed two birds with one stone, if you will. So again, we just went through the whole cash flow analysis and showed it to him, and he was like, nope, I totally get it. Now, I will tell you that he didn't choose to defer 100% into the post-tax, and he didn't choose to do 100% on the pre-tax. We kind of split it down the middle. So he's now doing 50% pre-tax and 50% post-tax. So it worked out. But the only way he knew that is by doing the planning.
Going through the plan.
Yeah.
Yep, that's exactly right.
Yeah, so I guess the point behind this is, and there's a whole lot more to tackle when it comes to, 401k and should you contribute to a 401k. But I will tell you the biggest impact is something we don't know Well, a couple things. Number one, we don't know what the growth rate is going to be of those accounts.
Right.
So we can't ever predict that. But number two, we don't know what the tax impact is going to look like down the road. Now, here it is, middle of January in 2021. We just had a change of the administration. And I don't know if anything's going to change from a tax bracket standpoint or a tax code standpoint. But all indications are that something might happen. And so we got to believe that in 15, 20 years from now, it's probably going to be different.
We're gonna have a different one, yeah.
I don't know if it's going to be higher or lower. We have no idea. But we do know we can plan today to say, let's pay tax on the seed and let that seed harvest over the years. And then when we go to harvest, maybe we don't have to pay as many taxes. And that's what the Good Financial Plan will really show you. So any other final words?
No, I think that pretty much does it all. I was just going to wrap everything up. If you are interested in finding out a little bit more about what a financial plan would look like or learning a little bit more about 401ks, reach out to us. You can give us a call at 502-200-5210, or you can email us at info@fwppartners.com, or check out the website.
Yeah, it's new. We just launched it, and that was January 20. It was like 2 weeks ago, but this is middle of January. And
so what's the website now?
It's just FWP. Well, somebody's going to put it up.
We're going to put it on the screen.
We'll put it on the screen here for you.
That same guy that makes all the goofy analogies is going to put this on the screen, and he's probably going to be hating on us later.
He's sitting right over here. Anyway, thanks for watching, and just make sure you tune in every week. If you're watching us on YouTube, select the subscribe button, and as we put out new content, which, by the way, is every week, you'll get the new content. And by the way, we also have a second podcast. So if you're following this one, make sure you follow our other one. Now, I will tell you, this is more financially related topics. Sure. Our other podcast is called Connecting the Commonwealth. That's a super cool one. That's the one I'm probably most kind of geeked about going into this year, where that particular podcast focuses on different entrepreneurs in the city, business owners, where we just kind of talk shop about being an entrepreneur or a small business owner, but we really kind of focus on their business and let them tell their story. And the reason we do it is because there's a ton of us out there that have these small businesses that have great services that not too many people know about. We don't have the big budgets like, the Walmarts of the world to do constant advertising on TV or anything. It's really just by word of mouth. And so we're sort of helping them get the word out about the services they provide our community. So it's kind of cool. Just do the search for Connecting the Commonwealth. And then our search is obviously Peace of Mind Radio. But follow us and give us a thumbs up. Make sure you subscribe to our content. And we'll see you guys next week.
Take care.
The information given herein is taken from sources at IFP Advisors, LLC, doing business as Independent Financial Partners, IFP, IFP Securities, doing business as IFP, and its advisors believed to be reliable, but it is not guaranteed by us as to accuracy or completeness. This is for informational purposes only, and in no event should be construed as an offer to sell or solicitation of an offer to buy any securities or products. Please consult your tax and/or legal advisor before implementing any tax and/or legal-related strategies mentioned in this publication, as IFP does not provide tax and/or legal advice. Opinions expressed are subject to change without notice and do not take into account the particular investment objectives, financial situation, or needs of individual investors. This report may not be reproduced, distributed, or published by any person for any purpose without IFP's express prior written consent. Securities offered through IFP Securities, LLC, doing business as Independent Financial Partners, IFP, member of FINRA and SIPC. Investment advice offered through IFP Advisors, doing business as IFP, a registered investment advisor. IFP and Family Wealth Planning Partners are not affiliated. The information given herein is taken from sources at IFP Advisors, LLC, doing business as IFP, IFP Securities, LLC, doing business as IFP, and its advisors believed to be reliable, but it is not guaranteed by us as to accuracy or completeness. This is for informational purposes only, and in no event should be construed as an offer to sell or solicitation of an offer to buy any securities or products. Please consult your tax and/or legal advisor before implementing any tax and/or legal-related strategies mentioned in this publication, as IFP does not provide tax and/or legal advice. Opinions expressed are subject to change without notice and do not take into account the particular investment objectives, financial situation, or needs of individual investors.